I took out the bench that was here, took the table, spun it around, took the legs off, and swung all that around to make a little corner eating area, although we may be moving that. As you see, this is the bunkhouse model, and it has an upper and lower bunk, and we're wanting to put an office down in this area. And one thing I did do is made a where this would lift and opens up the area. Alright, so here's part two. I cut a couple of sticks and took the screws out along the base of these where you can lift it up and make a larger area. The plan is going to be to take this out and make it an office. Bathrooms right over here. I guess being new to all this, I don't know how to pause and add to it. So anyway, I took the mattresses out. You can see how it's lifted up now. Just cut a couple of boards and took the screws out along the base that held that down, where you could lift it up and give you a little more space. Now the plan is going to be to take out this bottom bunk and make that back there a desk, and then the chair will go here. Of course, some things I'm going to have to deal with. I got a water heater over here, which I'm thinking I may build a pantry here, or I may put an air conditioning unit here, because I really don't like the sound of the air conditioner. Make it a little more peaceful. And of course they do the flooring throughout, so that shouldn't be too big a deal. But I do have some piping to contend with and move around also. Alright, wood pieces are removed. Wasn't much to taking that out, just a few screws. So trying to figure out, maybe a setting area back here for Laura. But then we have this piping that comes over to the hot water heater and gas line. So just trying to figure out how to make that space work into an office. Here's an idea. So this piece here would be cut off. So this part over here wouldn't be here. And then it'd be a long desk running from that corner all the way down to this. And then a front plate to cover that up. And then this would make a desk and eating area. And then this table will probably come out. And maybe put another couch here for watching TV. Alright, so one of the first challenges I'm dealing with is the bathroom's there behind that door. And there's dual bunk beds here. And we're wanting to make this into an office. Got a window back here. But the problem is, as you can see, the plumbing runs right across where the doorway would be. And there's a hot water heater and a gas line. Now the plan is going to be to build a desk across the top here and make this area a setting area. Now I just got to figure out how to take these lines and replumb them. And I was thinking about putting them beneath the floor, but my guess is they probably ran them above the floor because they don't want them freezing. And assuming it's a little more insulation in here than hanging out underneath the trailer, so I'm gonna have to figure out how all these little fittings work. And I'm probably gonna look on YouTube myself to see where somebody else has done this. My thinking is I'll take in, cut that loose there, maybe get some new tubing, and then just run the tubing around the outside line of the floor. And the next challenge is that tube runs from the shower back up under there and comes out, which I'm really not sure. The tank is right under here, right almost where we're at. So they plumbed it all the way back over and ran it through this hole here in the floor. And again, I'm thinking what I'm going to do is just cut that elbow off there, elbow it back up around the back corner of the wall, and bring it all the way back around here and drop it back here in the floor. So that's the first project to work on. I've already got started, already removed this wall piece that was in there, and now I got to take that other piece out and then probably do some plumbing. And a lot of this stuff's pretty simple. It's just a few screws in the wood to take them out of the walls and remove them. Pretty lightweight stuff. So just literally probably a total of 30 minutes to take all that bottom bunk out. And this top bunk is just raised up with a couple of sticks. So we got to lower it back down and have a bed up on top. And as you can see, increase the footage quite a bit in here. And again, we'll have the window there. now to figure out the plumbing stuff. And that may take a little bit. Stay tuned.
Okay, here we are taking the brace out, and we're going to scoot down the bench somewhat so we could probably have easier access. So again, it's just trial and error when you're doing these things and you're flying by the seat of your pants and being creative. So this is how things get perfection or perfected. See, even speaking needs perfection. So he is going to move that back so it's not in our way as far as getting into the bench. And then he's going to scoot the bench down, flush to the wall, so that we also have some extra room to enter into our office slash dining area, if you will. So we'll come back in a minute and we'll show you the next section of change and see how that works, and then we'll figure out which is better. Just undoing a couple of screws, about 8 of them. You push it back, you try it out, trial and error. I forgot to add that the difference is 14 inches. So we're going to scoot it almost flush to the wall. Not quite, because it doesn't, there's some reason he told me. And if you're trying to do this, I'll get the specifics later, but something about, oh, that wall brace, see right there, the wall brace at the end of the wall. So that's why I can't make it flush, I think. I'm not really sure. So this is my first video. That's another thing we're trying. We are taking off the top of the bench because I feel like it hinders your ability to go back as far. And again, probably just 3-4 inches of space, but hey, in a tiny area it can make all the difference. So we will give you a report card and a review once he's done. I don't think I mentioned that Greg stapled his finger all the way through today. So look at those hot dad pants from 1990 something.
And still lasting.
Still lasting.
And by the way, the blue tape is great when you have like a minor mishap and forget that you're never supposed to put your hand on the other side of where the nail gun goes, right through the finger. But blue tape solves everything. It'll slow me down a bit.
Alright, we'll be back. Okay, so we're back with an update. So as you can see, we took out the brace. It was way too close to the bench. We moved it back quite a ways. I would say about 2/3 of the way maybe. As you can see there, maybe half the way from where it was. And then we pushed this back. So this is not coming out farther from the wall. And it's about 2 inches or 3 inches from the wall still on the other side. And then we have a curtain that we use that's not up because we're working, that will close this area off and make it for privacy. So that's what it's going to be. We're going to go get the wood that's going to go on top. And again, the wood is as wide as it is because we want to be able to nap, have a book nook, whatever there. So we will also put the cushions that go to the bunkhouse on top of that when we're not eating dinner or eating any meal, and using it for an office. So it'll have some dual purpose there. So now it's an office dining area slash a book nook, nap nook. Say that 3 times fast. So that's where we're at. We're going to surprise y'all with the top. We're not sure what we're going to do yet, but we've got about 5 options that we'll share with you later. And I'm going to go take a break because I'm running out of breath talking so much.
Alright, well here's going to be the next project. Kind of mostly got that back office done, need to put a desk on it. And we want to put a couch along this wall. This is where the dinette was, and now the bottom of the dinette's in there. I'm going to use the other half of the dinette to come all the way along this wall. Just so happens it's right at 82 inches, and that's exactly what our couch is. And then I'm going to have to come out 28 inches from the wall. It's going to kind of narrow down the walk area a little bit, but it'll give us a place to lay there, and then also over here on this couch, and then also back in the back office. Alright, well, into the work area. This is what I'm going to be starting with. This was the bench that came out of the trailer initially. And so what I'm going to do is I need to make it a little bit longer this way. And then I'm going to have to extend it out further. The extended, I'm not too worried about how to make this look good coming out about another foot or so. So we're at about 20, and I got to come out another 8 inches here. So, and then of course with the distance, it's at 42, and I'm going to have to come all the way out to about 82. Here's a picture of the little booger that shot a nail through my finger. And here we go. I'll try to do a few clips here and there as I'm building this thing out. It's just going to kind of follow along their little light framework, so we keep the weight down in the trailer. Lightweight, but try to make it sturdy. Okay, I've been doing a lot of working with what you have, and so instead of buying any new material, I've been using stuff I have from when I took all this out. So as I said earlier, I'm going to use this piece. I had this extra piece, so what I'm going to do is use it, because it'll match, to extend out and across the front here, and it's going to be the exact size I need, same color, everything, so it'll be easy to build out, and the colors will all match. Although one thing that's going to be a little bit squirrely is the grain goes a little different way, but I don't think it's going to be real noticeable down low like that, and the angle you're going to be setting it in the trailer. So, and no cost, the same material, just reusing it in a different way. Okay, so I finished making all the cuts and adjustments. Added just a little piece here onto the end, and that looks pretty good. I've got a couple of like caps that I'm going to try to put on it to cover up some of the seams a little better. And as you can see, it runs all the way back to the wall now. Of course, I'm going to put some more bracing in it, but this is just the first part of putting it in. It looks like it's going to work out well. Big enough for a couch to go there. And back here in the office project, I've got the board, and it is off by just a tiniest bit, so I'm going to have to trim it down just a hair to get it to fit. And I'm not sure if it's the wall that's not completely straight, or if it's the board that's not completely straight. So if you go to your local hardware store and they rip down the plywood like I had them do, you may have to square it up a little bit. Again, I'll be checking that to see. Now on this, I took a stud finder and found the studs in the wall, and I attached a brace back here on the back wall, screwing the screws into the brace, or the 2x4s, or probably 1x4s that are in the wall back here behind the wall plate, so that'll be braced up. And there'll be a little more to follow here as we go along. Of course, also screwing it down to the floor, trying to make sure that it's staying straight. And for the most part, it looks pretty straight. There's also a line on the floor that I'm following so that I can make sure I got that straight. Okay, so the cuts have been made. Just had to trim it down just a little bit to get it to fit right. Had to cut a little notch there just to go around that board. And of course, like I said, I drilled the holes so that you can put your finger in and lift it up to get up what's underneath it. I'm gonna cross brace, put in some maybe storage area, something like that, and also thinking about putting a little folding table here that'll fold up and down. Still trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do all that. And again, put a hole in this one. So now you can see we've created a big storage area underneath here. And then also the other board I cut for the desk, it was off just by a little bit, and now it just fits snug as a bug in a rug. So next thing we're going to have to do is figure out what we're going to cover that with. And we're looking at probably the peel and stick laminate flooring, maybe. Looking at some different ideas. I've also got to come up with some stuff to trim this out, because I'm not real sure what I'm going to do with that. I may just stain it. Still thinking through that part. More to follow, folks. Okay, sorry if it's a little bit sideways. Tried to adjust it best I could and hook it onto a couch, because I'm doing this videography stuff by myself here. So thought it might be kind of interesting to watch as I try to bring the couch in the door. So how many people bring their living room couch in and make it part of their RV? Probably not many. I'll be back. A little windy today. You may be asking, why am I bringing this in and what in the world is this guy thinking? Always check your fitment. Make sure everything fits the way you think it's going to fit. So I'm checking this out to see how well it's going to set before I go to bracing everything up. I want to make sure I have just a little bit of an overhang here, so when you're setting in it, set gently because it's not braced up, that it'll set comfortably. And of course, what we're planning to do is there'll be pillows. Oops. It'll be fun watching me drop stuff everywhere. There'll be pillows along here, so of course you won't see that brown once all this is filled out and made pretty. Looks like this is going to be pretty cool. Pretty comfortable little couch. Let's see how the layability is here. Gently, of course. Oh yeah. I think I could see many happy hours of watching television. I'm going to prop the head up a little bit here, and good night all. So it looks like we're looking pretty good. Just a hair out more here would be a little better, but I think also if we, because of our pillows, we don't want them sliding off while we're going down the road. They may be tucked back in there, but I think that is right on the money. Of course, I'll have to show it to Laura, my professional opinioner. And so there we go, honey. You can see what that looks like. And I think it's going to do pretty well. A living room couch. Just took the cover off our couch and brought it in here. And this is what I'm talking about, lining it up here to where it sticks out just a little bit over the edge. So, you know, you don't see any of that ugly stuff under it. And of course, I still may do something underneath it just to make it look nicer. Just because you can kind of see it if you look, but not much. I'm going to call that almost a success, or pretty close to success. Laura wants a shelf on it. And I've got some brackets I'll show here in a little bit. What I'm thinking about doing is mounting the shelf right here, so it'll lay down flat against this. And then when you flip it up, it'll flip up right about here. And you'll be able to set your drinks on it or what have you, but it won't get in the way unless you're sitting on the couch and somebody's trying to walk by while you're sitting there enjoying your cold drink. Then it may not be fun. Yeah, I gotta admit, I've never have appreciate all you guys out here do this stuff by yourself until now. It's a trick getting the camera set up just the way you want it. Got these on Amazon, little fold-out brackets, and I'll post down here where the part numbers and such are. It says rated for 500 pounds. That's pretty impressive. So it's got a little click right here, so you lift it up, the click drops down. So again, just trying things out to see how they'll fit, how they'll look. So if this was mounted this way, and you had your table, of course there'd be two brackets. One here, somewhere along here. We'll have to figure out about where, probably down this way just a little bit. It'll be mounted here, and then your tray will be mounted here. So then when you press the buttons, your tray would come down out of the way and set almost flush with that. Not quite, it's going to stick out about that far. And then as you open the bracket, it'll lift up and your tray will be right here, kind of like a little handy TV tray. So this is one idea we've had, and I had, and Laura had. Laura actually came up with the idea, and then of course I try to work to figure out ways to perfect it. So just a little simple bracket, should be more than enough to hold a cup of coffee, and they'll just mount like this, and then they just fold down out of the way when you're not using them. Also bought this bracket here, and this is an adjustable bracket, and I'm going to mount it up underneath this table because my concern is the weight right here when you get up on top of this, and my idea is that this leg will fold back up out of the way up underneath, and then you can fold it back down, and once I get it mounted I'll show that better. But that's another one of the little projects we got going, and again I'll show the part number on it. And that's just because I tend to over-engineer things sometimes. But I'd rather be safe than sorry, just because I just don't know when you put weight on this, I want it really sturdy because this is also going to act as a bed, because that is right at about 6 foot, so big enough for most people to lay on, and it's as wide as this couch is. Actually a little wider than the couch is. So if the couch is big enough to sleep on, that'll be big enough to sleep on. So now we've increased our area again. That was a bunk bed, but now it's a bunk bed and an office. And a small child could sleep on this lower bunk area if needed. Full size up there, another one over here. Bed folds out. Of course, the top, as I've said before, comes down. I guess I could try to show that real quick too, how that works. So there's 2 boards here that I just cut, and this just lowers down, and you fold back the pad, and you have another bed. And 2 people could fit up here, 1 very comfortably, or 2 young kids could fit up there just fine. And it's really easy to lift it up, get it out of the way. You move your pad back, of course it's really easy. You hit yourself in the face. Dave, you're right. Maybe some interesting videos. I videotape myself all the time. Just like that, and it's up out of the way. I'm 6'2". Okay, not really, but I say 5'11". Laura argues with me, says I'm 5'9", 5'10". You know, I'm over 5'5". How's that? Now, seriously though, I'm 5'11" with these shoes on for sure, maybe close to 6. And as you can see, I have plenty of headroom here. And as I sit down, I have plenty of room all the way back. Even if I sit all the way back in the corner, I've got plenty of headspace. Not going to hit my head. Got plenty of room to work. Plenty of room for 2 people to sit here and eat. You can put another fold-up chair here, so you could actually seat 3 easily. Maybe 4 if you're really comfortable sitting close to each other. Got a beautiful view out the window of the ocean. Okay, no, my house, but hopefully, as things progress and we'll have a nice ocean view, I'll be able to sit right here and work, eat, play cards, what have you, and sleep on this. Once I brace it up a little bit more, I really don't want to climb up on it just yet. Kind of not totally sure I trust it. I'm sure if you get up on it easy, it'll be fine to get up on. So I'll just do a little example of it, very gently. And as I said, plenty of room to lay here and sleep. So it also adds another bunk option to this. So 1 space, multiple uses, people. 1 space, multiple uses. That is the idea. Get as much use as you can out of a tiny space. Alright, y'all don't get to see me doing any of my planning or figuring my ciphering, figuring out how I'm going to do this or do that. So I thought I'd try to video a little bit of it. Not sure the distance may be a little too far from over there to here, but I got this table leg that I want to put under here to give us a little extra support. And so now the fun part is to figure out where I want to mount it, how it's going to go, etc. So I could just fit on that pretty well. See what's happening is this piece here I can mount up on top. I've got a brace up under there, it'll go there. But this piece here just sticks down just that much. So I'm afraid when we slide in we might hit our leg on it. So that's what I'm going to check and see, the clearance. Might be able to cut that off a little bit with the Dremel, but still going to have a little bit sticking down. So let's see how it feels when it would be in position here. What I'll probably end up doing is tacking it in and then, you know, trying it out and seeing, You know, am I going to hit my leg when I come climbing in here? And looks like I'd really have to put my leg up high to be able to hit that. So I think it's going to be fine. Best I can tell, looks like I got about 3 inches from hitting it. So I'm just sliding in, sliding out. I think that's going to be good. Another thing I recommend, I got these Power Pro screws. They're better than using the Phillips head. They've got this like I don't know, octagonal or hex thing in it that helps to grip the screw better. And I love these things because they don't hardly strip out at all. So much better than trying to use a Phillips. And I don't know what I did with my glasses. I can see distance just fine, but up close I like having a pair of glasses. I can probably get away with that today. Back in and under. Always go slow, because your body is not near as tough as this trailer is when it comes to getting smacked around. Alright. I'm thinking that's going to go right up under here. Yeah, I'll have to fix the rest of that later. And I'll show y'all here in a minute once I test this out and see. Again, test, measure, retest. See if anything's going to get in your way. Move around. I'm not even noticing it, not even getting close to hitting it. So, if I get up high enough to hit it, I end up hitting this here. So, I think it's going to be just fine. Still going to need a little tad of tweaking to make it work properly. And I'll probably put a bolt in it so it can't come loose like that again. So I'll show y'all what happened here. Hopefully not get too jerky. Plan on buying a gimbal so that I can get nice smooth videos here eventually. So this is how it popped apart. So that little device is supposed to slide up and down. Now let's see here. I may have to see if I can get the light on this. So I mounted it up under here. And I'll have to get some light to light that up a little better for you. But you can see it just pops down and it'll sit on the floor. And that'll help brace up the end of this table. So I have a brace back there and bracing all up underneath. But I just wanted something on this outside edge as a little extra insurance. Alright, got some lighting now so you can see this table leg here in action. I fixed that little piece there and I'll probably end up putting a screw through it to hold it once I get the length figured out. So it's adjustable. You just pull this thing here and down it comes till it clicks in, and it's off just a little bit, as you can see, and it won't quite click in. So I'm going to have to trim off a little bit off the bottom here so that it can reach down to the next click. You heard that click? Right there is where that little button clicks in. That's what holds the weight of the table. But I've got just almost a fingertip underneath there. Sorry for the poor quality there. It's kind of hard. Kind of got a reverse angle to video this thing. So I got just about a fingertip underneath it. So what I'll do is measure about half a click here off and then take a Dremel tool and cut it so that this can go down a little bit further. And then I can get back up underneath here. As you can see, this is the part I was worried about sticking down just a little bit, but it's rounded off. There's no sharp edges. Rounded off. There's no sharp edges, so I feel okay about this. So, and then what you do is you just lift it up like this, and you see the little lever moving, and it'll just tuck up underneath the table like that, where it's out of the way. But when somebody comes to get in here, and I want to have it a little stronger, I just got one screw in it right now, just kind of hold it in place. It'll brace up this table really well, and that way, you know, you can get some heavy weight on that and not worry about the end of the table collapsing on somebody or falling in on somebody who may be sleeping over here. Oh, there goes the cushion. I guess it was showing an example of falling over. Alright, here's a fancy bench I made to put the phone on while I cut that down with a Dremel tool. We'll see how well this thing sets in here. Just like anything else I've been doing, it's probably going to crash and fall to the ground. But we'll see. Mostly doing this just so y'all can see. It's kind of a pain to sit here and video these things and try to show all this stuff. Hey, well, maybe not so bad. Alright. Into the handy dandy tool cabinet. And I think I just realized I broke my cutoff tool last time I used it, and in fact I know I did. This is what I was going to use as a Dremel with a little cutting wheel, but I broke the cutting wheel, and I'm pretty positive it's not going to go back on there. Well, it might. We'll see. So as I said, you can take this and cut it and adjust it, put the cap back on. So I'm wanting to come down one click, and I was about a half a finger short of that being able to hit the floor the way I wanted, so I'm going to trim the end of that off here on my fancy workbench. Half finger. No responsibility for anybody that injures themselves, starts fires, or creates hazards for others while doing things that I demonstrate in my videos. I'm not really sure about all the legal ease on that, but I'm sure there's probably supposed to be some. Now, that's going to be very, very hot. Do not stick the rubber end back in. Don't touch your finger to it or your tongue because it'll burn the crap out of you. Now then, we'll wait for a bit, let that cool, and then we'll go try it out and see if it fits. From this angle, my finger guess was dead on. I have a very accurate finger measurement. So this piece here is going to come right up underneath here, and I'm going to screw it up on this back side. And I'll show you that when I get over here. I'll try to put the camera on this side so you can see it. But as you can see, hopefully, if I don't wiggle around too much, right on the money, right on the floor. So when the weight comes down on this, the weight will be on that, and that'll keep this thing from collapsing and hurting somebody. Okay, well, I got no idea if that's going to work or not, if you can see that very well or not. Hopefully you can. I'm just kind of holding the camera off into a corner. So, all you YouTube folks out there who think holding the camera is rough, try doing it in a trailer with almost no space whatsoever. Now that takes some talent, I'm telling you. Almost as much talent as my finger measure. So right there is where I had it planned. So that is where she shall go. Okay, I'll put a couple more screws in it here in just a minute, but just to see if y'all can see this, hopefully. That'll just fold right up out of the way, and then fold right down like that, and hold the weight of a grown man. A grown man, I say. Reminds me of a foghorn leghorn. And there we go, so up it goes, out of the way. Hey, somebody's going to come sleep tonight. Alright, well, let's put that leg down so nobody crashes down. Okay, here I am. Woohoo! Currently at 180 plus pounds, so pretty sure this will hold at least up to 200 pounds anyway. And if you're any bigger than that, you probably don't want to sleep on this back here. You want to be on the real bed. Alright, well. Hello everybody, we are in need of some opinions, so please put your opinions down here. I'm not going to bug you guys with all the please subscribe stuff. You know, if you subscribe, it's great, helps us out, and get likes, that's great. You hear it 100 times, I'm not going to mention it too often. Anyhow, so what we're going to do is trying to figure out what covering to put on this tabletop. Here's a few choices that I picked up from the hardware store. And maybe eventually I'll mention hardware store names, but that's a few choices. Laura's come up with some wishbone material that she found on Pinterest. Go check out our Pinterest. We've got the stuff pinned there as well. Hey, you guys, I'm going to put up a poll, and I want y'all to vote on what type of material we should use to cover this tabletop. And then also, you got any ideas for trimming some of this out, trimming some of these boards out so they look a little prettier? I'm open to those ideas as well. So, hey, comment, let me know what you think. Tell me what ideas you have, what covering you think would be good for this. And hope everybody's having a great day. Okay, here's another angle of that leg I just installed that folds up underneath, just so you can kind of get an idea of its purpose. So as you can see, the table kind of hangs out, and the problem is sliding in and out. That brace that I did have up at the front was blocking us. We were hitting our knees on it, and it was hard to get around. So this looks like a real good solution. It folds up out of the way. Yet we can fold it down and get some real good support on that table, so if somebody's laying up there, you don't have to worry about it collapsing and it not being sturdy enough. As you can see, that's where the hot water heater is. Got it covered up in a box now. Didn't make it real fancy, but nobody's really going to see it, so not too big a deal. Not too concerned about how fancy it is, but it matches. All the wood matches. Everything's looking good so far. So on to another project. So I was looking at the tub and I noticed that it falls right at the back of the trailer. I've already gotten all my plumbing materials and decided, let's see how I'm going to plumb this thing in. Went to look up underneath and come up underneath. That is the black water tank. And over there is the gray water tank. And it just so happens the tub is sitting right above the black water tank. My plan was going to be to run a pipe down here and cross it over to the gray water tank over here, and now it looks like I'm going to have to change my plans up some. So that just goes to show you, make sure you look at everything before you start planning. Alright, a little short video here how to get these PEX clamps off, and I'm using these dikes, which not exactly a tool you're supposed to use, but I found it works. So just got to kind of get two hands and clamp down on it a few times. As you see, it's starting to cut through it now. And give it a little, not too hard of a twist, because you don't want to bust into your connectors. And just like that, that piece will bust off. You can see it's the little clamp piece. Then you can work the band off after you cut that loose, just by peeling back the this metal here. Takes just a minute or two, but not very long, and not really sure how much that tool costs. And of course, we're going to be doing a lot of this. Probably better to have the right tool. But just like that, you got the clamp off, and then you're ready to pull this off. And of course, I went and got some shark bites that I'm going to be using to replace all this. And I believe it'll just take and peel that off there. Or may have to get something to pry it loose. I also need to cut this one off back here, and then I'm going to see if I can cut them from the back side. Alright, so if you take a look at this, I've already cut the pipe off that ran over here, and still figuring out exactly what I'm going to do, but next part, I'm going to take this piece here loose. Should just be this nut right here, holding it on here, and I'm going to pause the video while I unscrew that. And on this particular model, from the bottom of the tub, this brass looking nut, I took a pair of channel locks to get it loose, and you just unscrew it, and as you can see, it just drops right off. And now we're going to have to replumb this piece so it'll go straight down through a hole, which isn't there yet. And I just poked a guide hole through just to make sure, because I was concerned that it was going to hit my black water tank, because it just happens to sit right underneath where the tub is. And I lucked out. I've got just a few inches down there. It's going to be just enough to run my piping straight down. So you can see up under the tub real well now, and you could probably see why there may be some flexing in the tub. See these little round things on the bottom. Well, it looks like they braced it up pretty well, but I'm still thinking about shooting some foam up in there, or maybe putting another 2x4 up in the middle there just to help brace it up a little bit better, give it a little bit more support. So here's some videos of what it looks like up underneath the tub. Probably an angle you can't get too often. You can see where the lines there run back up in the wall and then run back to the sink. And next project is to plumb that in, and then to run my lines around to the hot water heater. I've already pulled the tips off, and I used a cutter. Just a little cutter picked up on out there on Amazon. It had fair ratings, wasn't too expensive. Looks like it's a model XL0029. It was less than 20 bucks, and for cutting this lightweight PEX type, it worked just fine. So I read some reviews that said it didn't do so great on larger pipe. Maybe I'll try it on this 1.5 inches and see what it does. So just a warning, when you're pulling this out, be very careful that you don't twist it or turn it too much, because that tea will have water in it and it'll spill out on you. So that's a warning. I'll tell one on myself. I actually spilt the water everywhere, made a big old mess. But luckily I had paper towels close at hand so I could clean it up quickly, because as we all know, water is an RV's worst friend on the inside anyway. And so now it is removed. Once you have the pipe out and have dumped the water out of the tea so you didn't spill it everywhere, this little plastic keel is just screwed on here. You just take it off and we can reuse that. That just screws right off and will go on our other pipe. And of course also it has this little piece in here. Make sure you don't misplace that, because that's going to keep things from leaking on you. I called several RV places about this and asked, and a couple of technicians. That's the vent pipe right there, and it was just running behind the tub, so it's just going to vent in here. Ideally it would have ran all the way up to the ceiling and let the vent go out that way, but obviously it wasn't done that way. Now everybody's theory is the same. You just have to have pressure release, and with that tub being open, so unless you put a plug in the tub and you try to drain your tanks, then you're going to cause a problem with your pressure. But as long as you don't leave that plugged in the tub, no pressure issues. The water's going to drain straight out. Now potentially I suppose you could get some gases coming up from your gray water tank, or smells, not really gases but smells. So my advice would be put some of the cleaner freshener stuff into your tanks, or once you're not draining it, you could put a plug in there to where no fumes could come up. Or like I'm going to do down up underneath, you could put another P-trap, and that P-trap will keep that odor from coming from the tank back up through, because the P-trap fills with water and that keeps the odors from coming through the P-trap. And as you can see, there's a big hole here. I'm guessing they had to do that when they set the tub in and it was just a little further down, or my other guess is that if we got a leak here, it would leak down, through this and not get into the floor as much and not ruin as much, is my thinking. Up underneath, I'm going to try a little experiment here and put some spray foam up underneath there, and just to get old great stuff. Fills cracks and gaps, so don't let my wife know about that. She might try to fill my mouth up with it. I'm just going to try shooting some back up in there and see how it works, if it makes the tub any more stable. If it doesn't, you'll probably never see this video. Get my arm back up in there far enough. thinking this might also insulate up underneath the tub some. It kind of reminds me of the Hey Y'all Watch This videos. Hopefully it turns out better than as good as I'm hoping it will, and it'll just kind of fill up underneath here and act like these 2x4s do, and just cause some cushion up underneath the tub is my thinking. We'll see how all this turns out once it all fills up and does its thing. Okay, one note about using the grate stuff is it needs to really be at this angle. When you put it at another angle, it does not quite spray as much. So we'll fill in that side, and then also filling in over here on this side. So there's a big gap valve back up in there. I'll video that when it's dry, so I don't mess my phone up too much. Okay, how to deal with a pipe sticking up out of the floor. This will be another project I've got to work on and figure out exactly how I'm going to hide that. The pipe did come across from back here along this wall and across here, which is going to be my walkway. And of course, a part of another video is going to be how I pipe everything in. There's the pipe I removed there from under the tub. And we're going to take that off. I'm guessing we're going to pull some of that ring up and see if I can see if maybe I can unscrew that and just put a cap on. That's what I'm hoping. Otherwise, I may have to try to get up under, may have to drop the tank, get up underneath there, and cap it off that way. All right. Well, I really lucked out on this. It was just glued down, just right on top of the tank. Nothing special. They just cut a hole there. Just probably a little plastic welding. Set it down on there. Weld your plastic around that. I'll be doing a video later about how to weld plastic when I run the new pipe in. So not much to it. Now I'm going to have to plug that and cover this hole in the floor, and any luck maybe find some of this material that'll match. I don't know about anybody else, but this is how some of my projects start out looking. Get pretty involved in a lot of stuff everywhere. These are all the connections that I got at the store. So I got a cap here that has some threading on it, and I'll use that with this, and it'll slide down inside there just like that, and then it'll thread on with that piece there. It'll turn and thread onto that, and then a piece of pipe will connect like this, and like this, and that'll run down. So the first part's going to be, this piece came off the tub. We'll put that back on there, and we'll screw this in, and we'll put on a connector and a piece of pipe going down through the floor. Alright, hopefully this video doesn't keep shaking too much. So I took some tape, plumber's tape, and wrapped it around this, screwed this part down. So here's a little adapter for the tub. And then the other part you're going to need is this adapter here, and they'll go together like this. Now, first thing you want to do, of course, you can't just put it together, you got to glue it together. You want to make sure you get you some primer, and also get you some glue. And some plumber may tell me otherwise, but I just use whatever sandpaper I happen to have. So this just is some bending on walls when you're doing sheetrock, that type of stuff. So the first thing you want to do is just lightly sand this down around the edges, and what that's doing is just breaking up any loose stuff that may cause you to not have a good seal. Long story short, I dug up a pipe one time and patched it, and I didn't clean it up real good, and or I put too much glue on it. There's like a little ridge right here. I put too much glue on it, and after about 1.5 years it leaked, so I had to dig it all back up again and do it again. So a little bit of prep work is well worth it to save you a lot of trouble down the road. So just kind of roughing that up a little bit. You'll do the same thing to your pipe here, and any pipes that you're connecting, you want to sand just a little bit, just to rough them up. Wipe things out a little bit there, and you can see I'm seeing there's a lot of particles in there. So, but of course that's also where your primer comes in, because your primer is gonna, as I understand, it kind of makes this a little bit soft, and then it helps to clean it and make it all join together good. Clean that out real good. Get all the little particles out from inside there. And same thing on this one. I think I'm going to get a different. A little bit of primer. Again, with this stuff, more does not mean more, or doesn't mean better. You want to go light with it. Go light with the glue. Go light with your primer. In this case, the lid is on so tight I can't get it off. So there are channel locks there to break that loose. I bet this one's the same way. Again, your channel locks are really handy just for busting things loose like this. So I'll set that back down in all that dust. Nice clean work environment. A little less shake in the camera. Edit that out. So, a little purple. Make sure you put down some stuff to keep your environment clean. And that's a bit much, so make sure you go around that edge. Also, it wouldn't hurt to go right along the inside edge right here either. And then I'm only going to do one side on this, but I'll be doing the other side in a minute. But just for this first seal, so just a nice light wipe down there. And again, just around the edges. Make sure you got it all in there. Let that dry just a little bit. You don't want that wet while you're doing it. That'll take just a second. Doesn't take very long for it to get dry enough. And again, I can't stress enough, do not go too heavy with your glue. As I understand it, the plumber told me I put too much glue on, and that's why my patch job leaked. So just a nice light coat of glue on here. Just a couple little spins there. Nothing too heavy on the edge there. Now, when you do put it together, give it a little spin, and that'll help things to kind of bind together. So together, see how the gap closed up, a nice little spin, and then it'll get locked so tight you can't spin it anymore. See, now you can see the nut up top's turning. So just like that, and it's just a drain valve, so it's not like, you know, this plumbing is going to be under any pressure, so it should be relatively simple. This is just an adapter that goes on here, and then I'm debating what I'm going to do here right now. I may put another adapter so that if somebody goes to work on the tub, you'll be able to screw this loose and not have to take a lot of stuff loose. Okay, as you can see, I've got a little hole in the floor now. I got a little piece of pipe cut and ready to go, and I'm going to have to measure and cut it off at the bottom once I get down there. But it's going to go like this, and then this piece will go in here, and we'll glue these together. So, getting ready to glue this piece together just like we did before in the other video. Just clean things, sand it down, put a little bit of the purple stuff on it, a little bit of glue, and we're going to glue it together and put it in place. Okay, before you glue this piece onto this piece and your length, make sure you got your length at least long enough. So what we're going to do is just kind of put this in place here like this, and right at about where it's going to screw on here, and then just go down underneath, and let's make sure that you got the length that you're expecting and it's going to do what you expect it to do. Alright, here we are at the back of the trailer. As you can see, here's the line that we've got dropped down, so I've left plenty of line here that I can trim off of and plumb over to the gray water tank. And you can see the black water tank right here. Luckily we just missed that, so part of the planning when you're doing this, make sure that wherever your plumbing is going to run underneath it, it's going to work out and not cause you a lot of extra effort. Okay, here's another perspective of the pipe running down from underneath the trailer. So I've just got it temporarily connected right now, so I'm going to measure it, cut it, and hook up the connectors, and just not glue anything together yet, just to make sure all the pieces fit, run the way I want them to run. And so it's just kind of a dry run before you glue it all together. So I would recommend doing that first. Make sure everything's going to lay out like you think it will. Okay, so from this view, it's coming, the tub's up above, and it's connected to the pipe there, and I'm bringing it down to a Y tube. The tube's going to run down along the frame, back over here, back over behind the tank, and then back over to my gray water tank. Alright, so it's going to come out, it's coming out from the floor here, and what I was saying is how it runs around the tanks. One thing you want to do is get your PVC and get your measurements, figure out exactly how far it's going to go, and then how much pipe you're going to need to get down to the end, and then which pieces you're going to need to connect everything together. It's just kind of like a big puzzle. You just got to put all the pieces together, and once you get it all figured out and cut, then glue it together, and you got it set. Alright, I'm guessing people are going to wonder how I got a hole cut in the side of this tank, and rather than dropping the whole tank, which that'd probably be the right way, take all those bolts out, drop the tank down, mark out where your pipe's going to go, but I prefer just to leave it on there and not risk anything getting loosened up in here. So I'll take a little Dremel tool, a little Dremel bit, and just cut that out. And I'll try to video it while I'm doing it here. Alright, here it is. It comes down through the floor, runs along the frame. Put a T-valve on it so that I can switch it and just let it run out on the ground if I'm in a place where I can do that, and put a cap on the other end so I can just let it go out instead of having to go into the gray water tank, because we're just taking a shower, and if you're using organic soap, I'm sure it'd be safe for the environment. And I put some zip ties on the frame just to kind of hold things in place. Put a little piece of brace pipe on there just to make sure that stays up. And it runs over and into the gray tank. Just cut that little hole with a Dremel tool. And so now it'll drain and dump into the tank. Alright, now I got all the piping done. And I filled in all this with some of that spray foam. I did like the idea of having this as a drain area. So what I did is I got a plastic bottle cap, and I'm going to just kind of put it right here and then foam all down around it. As you can see, there's a little hole on the floor. It's almost like trampoline material they put on the bottom of this. But my thinking is I'm going to put this down just a little, just below floor level, so if that does drip a little bit, it'll drip into this plastic container, and then there's a hole at the bottom and it could drip out the bottom. So just in case there's ever a leak, just a little extra insurance while I'm in here. And just a little extra time and no extra expense. So this is it. You've heard of these, I'm sure. Shark bites. They just slide on the end like so, and they'll just clamp on there. We'll put one there and one there. I say clamp, they just slide on and they'll clip on themselves. And then we'll run our tube off the other end of it. It's just really just a snap and go sort of thing. And they give you a little tool that slides on the end here that kind of pushes this down and makes it pop out. And pretty simple stuff, and everybody swears by them that they don't leak. They do well. So, and you don't have to have special tools to crimp stuff down. Well, we'll see how it goes. Alright, piping has been moved, and if you notice, you just barely see right there where that hole was in the floor. Luckily there's a little piece of this linoleum left under the floor when they cut it out. So I was able to patch that up where it won't be too noticeable. Next we're going to need to build a box that's going to go around this to cover it up. And as you can see, I used the little clamps, and these I got over at the hardware store just to tie it up to the wall. And when you're tying it to the wall, there's like studs just like in a house. So you can use a stud finder and find those studs in the wall. And then I screwed it down to the floor right there. And, they're those shark bite connectors again. And of course, used them also over here. So again, plumbing's just kind of a puzzle. Figure out the puzzle pieces, make it all work. And now we've got this nice big open space that you can walk in and out of without any problems. You can see the top of the bunk bed up there. It's just so you see how that lifts up. I just cut a little board and it had screws along the bottom, so I just put a board up and just left it connected at the back. Just an extra board just in case. Give you a little more room in here. I can actually stand up walking in and starting to frame out where the desk is going to be. And then of course that's also going to be, you know, another bunk bed. Just a single bunk bed and more of a double up top. Alright, more to follow. Alright, it's time to choose a laminate to put on our tabletop. And of course tile would be way too heavy, otherwise that would be probably the ideal thing for durability. But they have these peeling sticks now that look so realistic. Hello everybody, we are in need of some opinions, so please put your opinions down here. I'm not going to bug you guys with all the please subscribe stuff. You know, if you subscribe, it's great. It helps us out and get likes. That's great. You hear it 100 times. I'm not going to mention it too often. Anyhow, so what we're going to do is trying to figure out what covering to put on this tabletop. Here's a few choices that I picked up from the hardware store, and maybe eventually I'll mention hardware store names. But that's a few choices. Laura's come up with some wishbone material that she found on Pinterest. Go check out our Pinterest. We've got the stuff pinned there as well. Hey, you guys, I'm going to put up a poll, and I want y'all to vote on what type of material we should use to cover this tabletop. And then also, you got any ideas for trimming some of this out, trimming some of these boards out so they look a little prettier? I'm open to those ideas as well. So, hey, comment, let me know what you think. Tell me what ideas you have, what covering you think would be good for this. And hope everybody's having a great day.